Hi, welcome to the virtual orientation for the Jay Flight 34 RSBS by Jayco. We're going to begin the orientation on the outside of the RV, and we're going to begin near the front. First thing we'll look at is your door side front pass-through storage compartment access. In here you will find your black Scodone grill. Not really, because we don't have any, but you should get a coupon for the grill so that when they come in stock you can get yours. That is included with the RV. At the moment they have the mounts for the grill that works with this receiver here and your quick connect propane connection here. Also in this front pass-through storage compartment we'll find your 50 amp power cable. This will connect you to the 50 amp power input on your RV as well as the supply end. Most people do not have a 50 amp receptacle inside their home, or even some campgrounds you're unable to get the 50 amp supply. We also include you with a conversion block to convert you from the 50 amp to a 30 amp supply, and then to further convert that down to a 15 amp plug-in, allowing you to plug directly into your home or any home receptacles. Also in here is your manual crank for your stabilization jacks. Those stabilization jacks are located on the four corners of the RV. They should be used to stabilize the RV once it's fully level. You may need to use some blocking in order to have the travel of the jacks not exceed their length. Usually I'd recommend 6x6 blocking. It seems to work the best and is the easiest to use and very stable and secure. Okay, as we work our way around to the front, we'll make note of the side marker light here. You can notice that there's an extra wide body to it. This is actually a camera housing or camera body that has the pre-wiring for your side view camera. As we come around the front of the RV, we'll notice your battery storage compartment. And below that, we have your safety breakaway cable. The safety breakaway cable is connected to the tow vehicle via the loop end, and the RV via this pin. In the event that the tow vehicle is separated from your RV, this pin will be pulled free of the housing, engaging your trailer brakes. I have noticed on occasion, or have been told on occasion, that these pins, when setting up, if you step on the cable or pull on the cable, now they are fairly stiff, but if once they've been in and out a couple times, they come out a little bit easier. Sometimes they can be partially pulled free of the housing, but not fully, so you don't realize that they're engaged. So if that's ever the case, that you feel the brakes are engaged and they shouldn't be, come here and just make sure the pin is fully seated into the housing. Right above that we have your 30-pound dual propane storage area, complete with your crossover regulator. At the moment you'll notice that this handle of the regulator is pointing to this bottle. What that means is the regulator will draw from this bottle first. When this bottle drops below a predetermined amount of pressure, it will automatically cross over and draw from this bottle here. Directly in front of the propane storage we have your tongue jack. This one in particular is an electric tongue jack. It has a rubber stopper on the top here that you can be used with that crank that I showed you earlier to crank your tongue jack up and down in the event that there is a failure in here, or that for whatever reason the power supply is not adequate. We also have a nice loading light, as well as extension and retraction of the tongue jack itself. As we continue towards the off-door side, we'll notice that there is another light at the front that helps with loading or doing anything that you may need in the dark around the battery or propane system. And as we come around the off-door side, you'll notice the off-door side marker light and the wide camera body for the pre-wiring for the side view cameras. Make our way along the outside of the RV, making note of underbed storage. You either have access from inside under the bed, or you can access it here. So as we slide under here, we'll make note of the one gray handle gray water tank handle there. And the output is all the way over here. So we have the output, and as I showed you, under your front bedroom slide is the one gray water valve handle. You have your black water valve handle here, and your second gray water valve handle is here right above the output. Right above the output for your black and gray water tanks, we have your black tank flush. Your black tank flush should only be used with the output connected to a sewer system and the black tank valve open. At that point, once you're connected to the sewer system, the black tank valve is open. I would connect your water supply via garden hose to here. You turn on your water supply and it will flush your tank for you. But again, should only be used when the black tank valve is open and you're connected to the sanitary system or a sewage system. Directly below that, we have your fill point for your potable water or fresh water. You can fill your freshwater tank from here. You would possibly need to do that if you're camping in a place that did not have freshwater supply, or if you're camping off-grid, you could use the freshwater tank to supply you with fresh water, together with the onboard water pump. Directly beside that, we have your city water connection. Similar to the other options here, here and here. These are all set up to be connected via garden hose. In this case, you would connect your garden hose to the city water connection, and once connected, turn the tap on. It will pressurize the RV plumbing system at this point and pressurize it much like the water in your home, and you can use the system in the RV the same as you would the water in your home. Next to that, we have your shower. Next to that, we have your 50 amp power connection point. This is where you'd connect the trailer end of that power cord I showed you earlier that is in the front storage compartment. Take a look at the outside access to your hot water tank. Here it is. A couple things worthy of noting: the drain cap here and the pressure relief valve. If you're wanting to drain the water out of your water tank, you would remove the drain cap, but before you do so, make sure that the pressure relief valve is open, relieving the pressure inside the tank. Otherwise, once you get to that final bit of thread, you're going to shoot that cap out of there pretty darn quick. Continue to move along the outside of the RV. We'll make note of the venting for the refrigerator and just mention that it is important this remains obstruction free for the proper operation of the refrigerator. And the venting for your range hood, you'll note that there's these little tabs here that lock and unlock. Currently it's unlocked and it flaps. That would be how you would use it with the range hood for travel, or when you're not going to be using it for a while, I would just click that closed. Just to the right of your venting for the refrigerator, we have your main input for satellite or cable TV of the RV, and directly beside that we have this small outdoor storage compartment. So we come along to the rear of the RV. We'll make note of the ladder access to the roof, as well as a housing for your rear view camera, and the pre-wiring is inside that housing. I had showed you the side view cameras previously. Both side view and the rear view cameras can work together via a head unit that can be monitored inside the tow vehicle while stationary or while in transit. And it will give you access to monitor the back of the vehicle as well as both sides. We continue to make our way along the outside of the RV. We've come pretty much full circle. And the last thing we'll talk about is everything we see under our awning. We have 1, 2 speakers there that can be used together with the stereo inside the RV. And we have your mounting block, 120 volt power, as well as an output for your cable or satellite, all underneath your awning, making it easy with the mount provided inside the RV to watch television out underneath your awning. Let's go inside. We'll take a look at some of the features that we can find inside. Now that we're inside, let's turn around. We'll face the door and take a look. we'll notice that just inside the door we have the unit's fire extinguisher. I like this placement. It's readily accessible to the outside if you're cooking outside, but it's also readily accessible inside if you're utilizing the stove or cooktop inside. Also just inside the door here, we have your thermostat. This thermostat uses a capacitive touch button. What that means is you don't actually have to physically depress the button. It's a very light touch. Use the power or mode button to cycle through all your different options. And then we can use these to change the fan speed and the temperature on the various screens there. Also inside the door we have kind of your little command center here. We have your indication panel that gives you the tank levels for all your tanks as well as your battery. It also provides switching for your water pump and for your water heater on gas and electric. Also in this area we have the main switch for the main lights for the RV, as well as the awning light, and we have the controls to move your slides in and out and your awning. One thing to note before I kind of leave this area here, the water heater and most or all of the appliances now, they light automatically. They no longer require you to light a pilot. So when you flick the switch for either the water pump, the water heater, any of that sort of stuff, it will automatically turn on and it will automatically spark and ignite the propane. So before you go into the main area of the RV, let's take a look in the bathroom and the bedroom. We have a light here. So inside the bathroom is where you'll find the GFCI for the unit or for the RV. There's a red test button as well as the black reset button. If you ever notice that you don't have functionality or power at any plugs in your water or outside, so any of the plugs outside under your awning, any of the counter plugs in the kitchen, there's a good chance it could be this guy here. If this GFCI gets tripped, then you will lose power to anything on the load side of this plug, and that is anything near water. Just make our way into the bedroom now. To walk over to the light switch, there are two access points to the bedroom via the hallway off the main area of the RV or via the bathroom door. A couple things to make note of once we're in the bedroom here. One being the emergency exit. In order to utilize the emergency exit, we press down on the black tab, put the red handle out, bring it perpendicular with the window, and then push it fully out of the window before grabbing the tab to remove the screen. Right above the window here, you'll see there is a bracket on the wall. It is attached to this block here. We had pretty easy to put on and off, just this little paddle here to remove it. You can utilize the bracket here, or you can use it outside under your awning. So it's pretty quick. You can just grab the TV off the wall here and put it out there, hook it up to the output for the cable or satellite, and you're in business. Just like outside under the awning that we were just talking about, you have your 120 power supply as well as a cable output. This has a really nice his and hers closet. Right there. As well as your traditional underbed storage. Earlier I showed you the access from the outside. This is access to the same space, but from the inside of the unit. Now we'll make our way back to the main area of the RV. If we squat down here, we'll make note of your propane carbon monoxide detector or alarm. You'll see that currently there is a green light on. That would indicate the system is working properly. There's a button just above that green light that if you press it, it will put the detector through a series of tests just to make sure the system is working properly. you'll see the green light turn to red, and you'll hear a series of loud beeps. If everything's good, it will go back to a solid green light like this and be nice and quiet. It's important that we test this ever so often with this button here, and I suggest testing it at the same time that we test your smoke detector. The common way to test the smoke detector is every 6 months to just go ahead and change the battery. That way you can ensure that the smoke detector is always functioning properly. And usually the easiest way to do so is at daylight savings time or when you turn the clock forward or back. I would suggest then when you're changing the batteries in there to also go ahead and press the button on the carbon monoxide propane detector just to make sure it's still functioning and you are fully protected. Continue around on our tour here. I'm going to take a look at the access point for your power center or load center. This is where you'll find all the breakers like you'd see in your house, and they function the same way. And the fuses, much like you would see in your vehicle, and they function the same way. You will also notice with these fuses that there is an LED light beside each fuse that if there's an issue with a particular circuit, you will see a red light light up to indicate that there is an issue. Now, we keep all of your information, documentation, and remotes are inside this drawer inside the RV. If you have any questions about any of the appliances or anything at all to do with the RV, this would be the first place I would look, in this pouch here. So we turn and look at your range top. We'll show you how to light that. Before we light it though, there's one thing we should always do, and that is open it up. With it open, now we can go ahead and safely light it and not have to worry about shattering the glass. And in order to light it, we must turn this to the light position and then come over here and turn the sparking knob. The same thing can be done for all 3 top burners. And we can do the same thing for the oven, except 2 things are different. One, we have to make sure we open the oven door. Never a good idea to light it with the door closed. And 2, when we turn it to the light position, we have to press and hold the knob in while we turn the sparking knob. So it's holding the knob in the light position that allows the gas to escape, and then you turn the sparker and it will ignite. It isn't uncommon to take a few seconds, 10, 15, 20 seconds to actually get the oven lit. And while we're talking about lighting appliances, before I move on to show you the refrigerator, I would just like to say that sometimes, especially on the initial light up or the first time that you've used the RV for the season, that you get air in the lines, and sometimes it can be difficult to light some of these bigger appliances. In order for to be easier for these to light, I like to light the stovetop first, or the range top first. That way, as you're trying to light it, you bleed a lot of the air out and let it burn for a bit. It kind of just burns through most of the air in the system. So now that we've lit this and we've bled the air from the system by lighting these, when we come over here and we hit the power button, this should light the first time. In the event that it still doesn't light, I would hit the power button, turn it off, leave it for a minute, get some other things set up, then come back and try to light it again. The common things that would lead to the appliance, such as your fridge not lighting properly the first time, would be 1, the air wasn't bled from the system, so instead of getting enough gas to light, it's getting too much air. In that instance, you just turn it off and walk away and then try to light it again. Or that the valves were not open on the propane bottles at the front of the RV, and that would lead to there not being gas supply in order to light the appliance. This particular fridge will light on gas as it is now. If for any reason there is an issue lighting on gas, this green light will be red. It will light on auto mode, which is either gas or electric. Electricity first if it's present, always, and then it will secondarily light on propane if there's no electricity, or electricity only mode. Press and hold the power button for 3 seconds in order to turn it on and off. Next we'll come to your entertainment center area. This is where you're going to find your fireplace, TV, and your stereo. First we'll take a look at the stereo for the RV. It has a 2-zone system, meaning you can listen to the radio on either one of these zones, either together or apart. If you wanted to listen to your radio only inside the RV, you would listen on zone 1. If you wanted to listen to your radio outside under the awning, then you would want to have it on zone 2. Along with the dual zones, we also have HDMI connectivity, Bluetooth, and auxiliary connectivity, and USB charging. Next, we'll take a look at your television. And really the biggest thing to note here is between using the cable or antenna. You'll see that there is a signal booster for your antenna. If that green light is on, that means the booster is on and it's boosting your signal. That is great for your antenna or watching TV over the air for free. Not such a good thing if you're trying to use cable or satellite. So if that is the case, you'll have to turn that off. No green light means it's off, and you should be able to watch your cable TV just fine. Your fireplace, pretty straightforward. We have the remote to do all these functions, but we also have the buttons on the front. We have your power button. We can increase the brightness or the color of the flame. We can increase the intensity of the light or turn the light right off, and we can increase or decrease the temperature. And you can see that there is a readout up here that indicates the different levels. So as I change the temperature, you can see the temperature is going up here on that screen. Now just a word of note that this particular unit has a 50 amp service or supply, which is great. That 50 amp service or supply allows you to run your fireplace, your water heater, your AC and everything all at once. If you turn everything all at the same time, it should run them perfectly fine. You would notice if you've ever had a 30 amp RV or 30 amp supply on an RV or trailer that you're unable to run your water heater and your fireplace at the same time. You have a switch that you have to choose between either the fireplace or the water heater. Now, just because this is a 50 amp supply doesn't mean you will always be able to run everything in here. The difference will be what you're plugging into, and we mentioned the conversion blocks from 50 to 30 amps and then another one from 30 to 15. That depending on the actual supply of power to the trailer, whether it's 15 amps or 30 amps or 50, that is actually what will also determine what you're able to run. So on 15 amps you wouldn't be able to run your AC, and on 30 you should be able to run your AC in either the fireplace or the water heater. So just keep that in mind, that just because the supply to the RV is 50 amps, if you're not actually connected to a 50 amp power supply, you will still have some limitations. If we continue to make our way around the remainder of the RV, we make special note of these ports located in various areas throughout the trailer. These ports are used with the AC. With the baffles open here, when the AC is turned on, the air will fall directly here. However, when these baffles are closed, the majority of the air will go out through the ports that are located throughout the RV. Alright, before we conclude our virtual orientation, I want to touch on a couple subjects here, one being your hot water heater. Now, I'm not going to go into detail about winterize or anything, just other than to mention that the reason why you would use any of the valves on the back here would be for winterizing purposes for the most part. At the moment, you can see that the valve position is pointing in towards the tank, as is this one. That indicates that the water is going to pass through the tank. If we want to bypass the tank, we would turn them like this, and that will allow water to flow and bypass the hot water tank. The reason why we do this is if we're winterizing, we don't need to fill this whole tank full of antifreeze. So if you do know how to winterize, or you're going to try it on your own, I mentioned that we do have a video up specifically for winterization. But if you do know where it is and know how to do it, you're pretty much just need to know the location of these valves and where it is. And here it is in the kitchen, right beside your stove. There's an access panel with 2 Red Robertson screws. And then the last thing that we'll show you, if you follow me into the bathroom, is the location of your water pump. Just below the cabinet in the bathroom at the very bottom. And you will see, again, this is for more winterization. We have your fill tube that you would use to draw from your antifreeze. But again, we also have this valve right here. And at the moment it's in line with the fill tube, meaning that if you turn on the pump, it would try to draw from your antifreeze bucket, or well, from this tube. So with it in line here, it's actually going to draw from the freshwater tank itself, which is where you want this to be set up when you're not winterizing. And again, 2 access panels with 2 Red Robertson screws. Pretty easy to access both of those. Thank you for taking the time to watch the video. Hopefully you found it informative. If there's any questions that you had but didn't get answered, don't hesitate to give us a call, and we'll do our very best to make sure all your questions are answered so you can enjoy your RV to the fullest. Thank you.